Hello and welcome back once again, to the bourbon spectrum, the bourbon dimension. We have re-entered it, as we always must do eventually. What have we got in this curiously shaped bottle?
Well, today's offering comes to us from the American Medicinal Spirits Company from Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. This is the Old Rippy, distilled at Wild Turkey's distilleries. This is part of it's batch number 1, in fact, of a new kind of, something I wouldn't say an experimental range, but sort of a tribute range to some classic
tributary distillers and distiller personalities, I suppose. What are they calling it? The Barons of Bourbon range or something?
The Whiskey Barons Collection.
Whiskey Barons Collection, right? So this one's James Ripy.
I'll read straight off a label for this one because it's, I guess, a bit of a tale. Hailing from County Tyrone, James Ripy left Ireland in 1830 and settled in Anderson County, Kentucky. In 1839, after renouncing his allegiance to Queen Victoria, Ripy became a naturalized American citizen. He opened a distillery that produced Old Rippy bourbon in 1868. Batch number 1 is a tribute to the style and consistency of the original Old Rippy bourbon with a complex delivery of oak, toffee, and spice. The rich family history is enshrined in the elegant Queen Anne-style Rippy mansion in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. So, what that means for us is this is a combination of various 6 to 12-year-old Wild Turkey bourbon, or at least bourbon produced at Wild Turkey's distillery, bottled at a formidable 104 proof, which is 52% alcohol by volume.
And uncoloured, unchilled filtered, which is always good to see. Good to see mentioned on
bourbons. In fact, unchilled filtered front and centre on the label. Uncoloured, obviously, by law, as is the case for bourbon, but unchilled filtered actually mentioned front and centre on this rather elegant, rather traditional-looking label. So it's a small bottle, 375 mils, which is, I forget what it equates to in imperial measures. I apologise for that.
Well, it'll equate to something because all bottle sizes are legally mandated in the States. It's why you always get sometimes a sort of 50 ml extra because there is no legal definition of a 700 ml liquor bottle over there, only a wine bottle.
So we have tried strong Wild Turkey in the past. Wild Turkey 101, I believe we scored quite well.
Yes, we enjoyed that one. And this is, in terms of proof, very, very similar to that. In terms of age, I think this is probably a wee bit older.
Yeah, at least on average.
This taxonomically would probably be fairly close, a little bit less proof to Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is both somewhat older and significantly stronger Wild Turkey whiskey. I don't have that one super fresh in my mind, but I'll try and cast back to that and do a wee bit of a
Did you look into this American Medicinal Spirits Company?
Yes, I had a wee look, because that was interesting, I found that. And I think I understand why that is the way it is. I think that's another spectre of the Prohibition era, because during Prohibition, there was 2 ways you could continue making bourbon. One, illegally, which had its own sort of, it was fraught in its own ways, or you could do it with a medical license.
Right.
And not even sort of under the guise that you're making, medical alcohol, ethanol for cleaning or whatever. It was understood back then, as it is potentially understood today, depending on your doctor, that the correct quantities, modest quantities of whiskey was a good for certain conditions.
For heart health,
so it could be prescribed by your doctor, and that's how you could still produce, buy, and sell bourbon 100% legally during Prohibition. And that's where this company will have come about. And
this does the actual Old Rippy bourbon, James Rippy's original, predates Prohibition by a while.
Oh, it does. Yeah. In fact, the old distillery, funny enough, that was that site was what the Wild Turkey distillery was built on. So there's a geographic connection as well as
part of the family.
Anything else. I'll be interested to see what they come out next with this one. So the Whiskey Barons collection. I don't know. Homer Simpson somewhere in the pipe
is the only offering from this American Medicinal Spirits Company.
Yeah. Initially, I thought Old Rippy might be a like a Rip Van Winkle thing, but no, it's not. It's a completely incidental Rippy.
Bit of tribute to America's strong tradition of Irish immigration. A lot of Americans are very proud of their Irish ancestry and the many colourful accounts of it's taken on.
Yes,
anyway,
indeed.
so colourful,
what's
onto
in
bourbon.
the bottle?
That is a remarkable nose. This is very aromatic and perfumey. This smells amazing, actually.
It's very oaky, but I suppose old bourbon is always going to be quite oaky.
It's quite perfumey on top of that.
What have we got? There is quite a lot going on here.
Yeah.
And it's it doesn't
More floral than I'm used to for bourbon.
have it pretty smooth actually for the whole over 50%.
Exactly.
Pretty smooth, although we should say, hopefully the sheen from down in the whiskey prison is gone now. We have, since we last filmed, lapsed heavily into winter. Apparently, the new season shutter was taken down, the old one was put up, and now it's winter, and it's way colder than it was last time we were filming.
Affects in part the amount of sheer vapour we get off our drams.
So, yeah, that's pretty damn smooth coming off that. But Wild Turkey is pretty smooth as whiskies go. It's not. It's smoother, I think, than quite a lot of the other main distilleries.
So
Certainly,
those oaky staves are coming through quite strongly now to me. But on top of that, there's still all those aromatics, those florals, some honey, spices.
Yeah, definitely spicy, vanilla. But there's sandalwood in here as well.
Yeah,
There is
quite
quite a lot
incensey. There's like saffron, orange blossom.
Yeah, a lot of spice and a lot of oak complexity.
That's pleasing because even though it's a combination of bourbon aged between 6 and 12 years by all accounts, but even 6 years is relatively old for off-the-shelf bourbon. You don't get a lot of extremely old bourbon, so. Oh wow, that is a light body, but it is an intense flavour. An intense fiery hit. It's not the heavy syrupy components we're used to in a higher proof bourbon. It is quite a thin body. It washes over the tongue fast, but lays down.
Yeah, I think
lots of flavour.
I'm finding that most of that is in the finish. Not to say there's nothing up front. Here we have another little slurry here. That's very. Maybe this is just psychosomatic because I've just read American Medicinal Distilling Company, but it's a very medicinal upfront flavour. There's quite a lot of... What do we got?
I'm not getting that, but it's good. We're getting different experiences out of it.
It's quite a... You'd call it a bit solventy. There's quite a bit of sweet acetone kind of model glue. Quite chemical right up on the front.
Yeah.
Almost a little bit like... It's reminding me of... rye whiskey. It's reminding me a wee bit of specifically Sazerac rye whiskey for some reason. It's not usually I'd get something that specific, but I don't know whether they have modified the mash bill at all here that we were not able to find. I mean, though it's been distilled at Wild Turkey.
I've seen suggestion, but it is Wild Turkey's standard mash bill. But yeah, there's a decent amount of rye there. But I'm impressed with that sort of. It's not a heavy syrupy body to it, but there is a strong sweet maple syrup finish.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, crisp medicinal up front, and then the finish just sort of slowly ebbs away, and it's very, very long, very complex, and really, really good.
Yeah.
Bourbon is not something I associate with monumentally long finishes. Probably because we don't sort of dabble in the really sort of, I guess, premier fine older bourbons like we tend to do, well, sometimes anyway, in Scotch. But this one, I mean, it's still going on, the finish. It's really, really quite something.
And I've talked about what the body isn't and how light it is, but what it does actually deliver is interesting in its own right. This is very barrel-centric. There's a lot of oak, there's a mixture of fresh oak, there is some char, and there's even, which is a first for bourbon, for me as far as I can recall, tobacco. There's a bit of a puff on a tobacco pipe happening here. And that's just on the mouthfeel, those initial flavours and the textures that come through up front. And that just dissolves, it transforms into this syrupy, luscious pancakes and syrup finish, like a dessert course at the end of your mains.
Tobacco, not as uncommon as you might think. Uncommon in lower proof bourbon. Tobacco is one of the flavours you lose once you cut your bourbon with water. Some bourbons are famous for tobacco, like Booker Nose, which we have tried in the past. Cigar Box is one of its primary flavours.
So I'm used to Booker Nose and particularly I have really hefty, syrupy smoothness on that first sip, even at full proof.
That's more of a... You think of Bookers or Bakers?
That's a good question.
Baker's is another barrel proof.
I'm pretty sure Booker
one.
knows.
Yeah. Booker knows. I think that's the first thing they put in their tasting notes.
Right.
But that bourbon, I've seen that bourbon come out at 68%. That's a nonsense bourbon.
That's a women's grade bourbon.
Yeah. The reason you don't see it, or I think the reason you don't see it in most sort of production level bourbons, most off the shelf stuff, is because it's not one of these flavours that survives too much water. Just like, to bring it back to Scotch, a lot of the real sort of fruitcake, a lot of the spice flavours come across a lot better, a lot of the syrupy flavours come across a lot better at undiluted Scotch whisky, whereas when you put the water in, you get a lot of fresh fruits, but the more sort of stewed fruit, cooked flavours, they'll disappear. They won't survive with that water added. They're just not solvent enough in water. Some flavours simply require that alcohol base to remain sort of solvent and tasteable.
It's good, the mixture of the spices and tobacco, but also some of that rye sweetness as well. I'm going to do what is odd for me and actually top up my glass a little, because this is complex and nuanced and surprising was an expect. I expected a good bourbon. Yeah. This is not only a good bourbon, it's also a sort of a challenging, a little bit confrontational bourbon as far as preconceptions go.
It's very, very vibrant.
Yeah.
Did I not... What were we going with the ages?
The great mind of the internet tells me a combination of 6 to 12-year-old.
So I think that's almost exactly what rare breed, wild turkey rare breed is posited to be made out of. This is a lot more vibrant. This comes across as a lot more youthful and vivacious, I suppose. It's a very, very happening, very lively whiskey. It's a whiskey that ever-changing on the palate and very sort of fast-moving.
It's such a light body for that immense ABV that it's got. Because usually with a higher proof bourbon, there is, again coming back to things that this isn't, there is a weighty, syrupy, sweet heft on the tongue, which is absent here at first, but emerges later on, and that's the...
what do you think about the addition of water? I prefer it with water.
I'd be tempted to chuck an ice cube in here, but today it would take so long to get the effects of it, so apologies to the bourbon purists. I'm adding some water up front to get the effect of an ice cube plus time. The nose is still the same.
Because, for a lush, vibrant whiskey, I think the addition of water makes it even more so. I think it doubles down on its strengths and gets even better.
Unleashed bouquets of extra flowers. This is just, blossoming, as it were, into a very floral and delicately spiced concoction. And, there's still that maple syrup, buttered pancakes, sweet finish to it.
Yeah, this may be one of the more stunning bourbons I think we've tried. I'm still sort of formulating my opinions in my mind here. I'll take you on a bit of a metaphoric journey here, and the way that I visualise the palate of really any spirit that I'm drinking. Some is then the stronger you get, the older you get for Scotch whiskies especially, but older, stronger, more sort of barrel heavy bourbons. I imagine the palate's journey across the tongue is it can be sort of a long, slow, languid riverboat ride. Kentucky style, slowly moving across the palate, so you can sort of, each one of the flavours spends a lot of time there, and they're very easy to pick out. There's the nutmeg, there's the cinnamon, there's the other spices or whatnot, here comes the maple syrup. They all spend a long time doing what they're doing, but there isn't too many of them. Some whiskies, typically younger whiskies, and super duper, this whiskey, they go speeding down the palate like a whitewater kayak. They spend way less time on each given note, but they have so much more of them, and they don't spend less time on the palate, they just zip around it that much faster. This one is just ever changing, especially with that addition of water. It has really, really gotten it kicking, and there could be 50 different notes in here. I'd need a serious afternoon to actually even begin to start documenting all of them, whereas the slower moving bourbons are so much easier because the flavours are, they could be just as complex, but there won't be as many of them, and they spend way longer doing what they're doing.
Yeah, if I can go on some metaphorical journeys too with other strong bourbons, for example, off the top of my head, Booker Nose or Rowan's Creek, where you have a very high proof bourbon that delivers a cold, smooth, hard hit of bourbon quintessence. It is strong, it is upfront, but it is smooth and chilled. You can sip it, you can enjoy it, you absorb all of its bourbonness, its bourbonosity on the go. This, however, is also, it's of a strength with those, but what it delivers instead is a slow, gradual unpacking. It's got this suitcase full of nuance and layers, and instead of just hitting you all at once and delivering just the singular bourbon experience, it is a long-term, slow unpacking of the bourbon. It just, you take out one item after another, one flavour after another. It's like, we've talked in the past about cerebral whiskies. For instance, you find this often in, say, particularly old Scotch, where there's just layer after layer, nuance after nuance, and that's kind of what's happening here too. There is a lot going on. It takes a while to process it all. It's not just you'll sit back, relax, enjoy a very smooth slug of a fine bourbon. This one you'll sip it and you just feel one thing after another. It just kind of is a gift that keeps on giving.
I'm trying to link this back to a more common thing. It's not at all like Rare Breed, even though taxonomically it's a lot more similar in terms of its proof, in terms of its age. This is, I think, most similar to Russell's Reserve, which is a 10-year-old bourbon at more like 45 ABV, so 90 proof. But this might actually be better. I really liked Russell's Reserve. It's one of my all-time favourite bourbons. I think it has almost something of everything in terms of... It's got something everyone can love in Russell's Reserve. It is unhateable in a way that many, many bourbons are not quite so much. This one is... It is more vibrant, it's more happening than that whiskey. It's fresher, it's fruitier, it's quicker. But... Yeah, so I will be rating this one blind because I don't know, I can't remember what scores I gave Russell's Reserve, but this is a tremendously strong bourbon. This is 94 points for me. It is a stunning, stunning bourbon.
Yeah, I'm going to rate it high too. Like, this is odd because it is a light body. Normally, light body in bourbon means it's going to be weak, it's going to be watery. In this case, no, it is light despite its strength, but it just has layer after layer of flavour and nuance. So it defies expectations of what a light body bourbon would be. It defies expectations of what a high proof older bourbon would be. And the age here, in fact the combination of ages, is a bit outside of what we're used to with bourbon as well. We've tried age statement old bourbon, we've tried combinations of younger bourbons, we've tried age statement young bourbon. This is all of those together, but in such a way as to produce a really quite different experience. And it rates an easy 91 from me.
Yeah, this is... If you hadn't guessed already, this is some strong bourbon here. Yeah. This is really good, and it is, at least in our market, very, very affordable.
Yeah.
This will not run you any more than a bottle of Russell's Reserve.
But to be fair, this bottle, 375 millilitres, it costs about the same as a 700 ml to 1 litre bottle of, say, Jim Beam White Label, or to go further afield, Jameson's.
I see. Well, given that you would have to pay me money to drink Jim Beam White Label, you made out there.
Yeah.
This is really, really something tremendous, and it's another tremendous bottle of Wild Turkey bourbon. I don't know what the sort of what the stakes are between which is the best distillery. I think they all do good stuff, but the fight really has to be between the Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey distilleries, I think, just based on what I've been able to try. And with each of these, because we had was it Charles Goodnight? That was a stealth Wild Turkey. That was tremendous as well. These sort of stealth Wild Turkeys it's edging ahead in the race for me because it's really, really getting itself out there. I mean, granted, you've got to do a bit of digging to realise that you're actually drinking Wild Turkey, but they're being pretty free with their output for these sort of esoteric little labels that are popping up. And it has been, as far as we've been able to detect, excellent whiskey in every single occasion. So, yeah, Wild Turkey doing really, really tremendous things. Matthew McConaughey, there you go. That was who I was trying to remember earlier in the discussion that we did not have on cameras, but that means nothing. That was the special Matthew McConaughey flavoured whiskey that they brought out. Taste the layers, the many nuances of Mr. McConaughey, I think was the one I was thinking of, but that's apropos of nothing. But there you go, there you have it. This one, batch 1, I am very excited now for batch 2.
Yeah.
I am glad that our local whiskey hero who works for actually quite a big chain of liquor stores, but he keeps the bourbon selection strong, such that you would not normally expect to find in a chain store. So I do hope he gets in the next one, because I will be knocking on his door to find it, because this was, I think, pretty good. But I might bring you his thoughts of that one for the next time, because he is a good resource on all things bourbon this far away from the continent. Anyway, we'll be back with something conceivably a bit more conventional, conceivably from Scotland next time. Will we surprise you? Will we not? You'll just have to find out. It'll be a surprise either way, if you think about it. Slanger.